Welcome to the Cosmic Echoes. Sue, lovely to see you and to have a chat and to know that we're all in this together.
Well, it's an interesting time, isn't it? I'm actually recording this the day before the new moon in Taurus, right at the end of April.
Mhm.
This has been long awaited because it's squaring the final square of Mars and Pluto. So,
Mm.
and we've been talking about this before we started recording. I don't know about you, anybody out there, but I'm feeling very strange at the moment. There's a lot of tension. I'm feeling very separated from what my understanding of community is.
Mm.
Loneliness is very present for me at the moment. I don't know how that's happening for you. And I've been talking to other people who are also feeling as if something difficult is around.
Yeah, disconnect. I'm
It's,
actually feeling a lot of trying to catch my breath all the time, like physically. Like I can't connect to that deeper breath, which is unsettling in itself, and then to feel disconnected from even those around. I have a house full of loud people, which you don't have. But it is even in that, it's like almost had a feeling of Mercury retrograde this week when Mercury isn't retrograde. Yeah, it's just strange. It's like there's something underlying and I can't put my finger on it. There's no understanding, deeper knowledge.
yeah, it's interesting because astrologically, Neptune has made the shift into Aries. It goes back into Pisces just for a couple of months during the year, but
Mm.
but basically it's going into Aries. And I wonder if this shift between this water element into fire element, there's a lot of steam going on.
Yeah.
We don't it's there's a kind of new sense of settling, of
Mm.
something. We have to settle into this, but it's
Mm.
really, I'm finding it very uncomfortable, and it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see if people watching this are also experiencing this discomfort. And if you are, pop it down below. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and how are you experiencing it?
Yeah.
We've had a lot of sleeplessness this week. You know, exhaustion, not even tiredness, just exhaustion, emotionality, crying, all these things that are popping up. And it would
Yeah.
be very interesting to hear everybody's take on it or
Yeah,
experience of it.
yeah, and also I think there is a sense of something's going on, but we don't know what it is. And
Mm.
it's for me, I'll explain it for how, when well, I know when somebody's not telling me the truth.
Mm.
You've got this feeling this isn't right. I know what you're saying, or how there's something, it doesn't feel right. It's got that, and I
Yeah.
trust that instinct in myself. And I feel it's the same feeling. Something isn't right. It's
Mm.
There's something going on here. And Taurus is about reality check. Taurus, the bull. So this new moon in Taurus, it's about what's real.
Mm.
There may be a lot of that going on for us. We talked about this in the last video, actually,
Yeah.
this new moon in Taurus. But because we've got the Pluto Mars opposition,
Mm.
it's warlike. There's
Yeah.
aggression.
Mm.
Pluto opposite Mars is aggressive. It
Mm.
isn't, it's there's something is going to come to the surface, or and maybe it is about Taurus is about money. um
Mm.
and it's got this very strong Uranus energy going on. Uranus has been in Taurus for a while now, and
Yeah.
it's going to be moving into Gemini shortly, but there's this sense of kind of, it's conjunct the sun, so it's a sense of suddenly something changing or happening, or shocks, and of
Mm.
course we've had a huge amount of fluctuation in the world markets because of our friend in America throwing in the spanner. Well, oh,
Yeah.
hang on a minute, that's my cat. Somebody has to, and he's
Yeah.
done it. Whatever you think about it, so the world is changing.
Yeah.
Whatever happens after, well, no, the spanner has changed our world, and we don't know what those. We are in chaos. We're in free fall.
Yes. But is there for you an element of a okay, we are moving into more of who we really are. Like we are seeing the gaps in our reality at the moment. We're
Yeah,
seeing that there's a disconnect. You talk about loneliness.
yeah.
We all feel disassociated from our tribe, or disconnected from our tribe. Is this maybe part of that shift of us going, oh, hang on a minute, this isn't us. We're not those beings that live in this place of pretend and materialism and whatever it is.
Yeah.
We need each other. This is who we are.
I just think the great divides happen between people who are awake to what's happening and engage with what's happening and taking their head out of the sand, and
Mm.
those that aren't. I just think there is a massive, it feels like a chasm is opening up between people just going, I can't live like that anymore. I have to,
Yeah,
I want community. I want to go, and I don't want I want to create a community that is self-regulating.
exactly.
I
Exactly.
want to be part of a community that is, it has a major age range
Mhm.
that is represents who we are as human beings.
Yeah,
Want to be a human being. I want to step
yeah,
away from the the madness of what money does to people and power does
mhm,
to people. And I think it's
yeah.
been really shown at us with this new moon in uh,
Taurus.
a Taurus. There is something here about massive reality check, and
Mm.
people out in the streets going,
Yeah,
hang on a minute, we didn't sign up for this.
yeah, yeah. Which is part of that. Okay, we're finding our
Yeah,
community, we're finding our voice. We're doing
yeah,
all this, and now to move forward. But in that space, there's an uncomfortability and a connection point. I love how you say of all age ranges,
yeah.
because we learn from the children and the elders and the middle, we all need each other in all those spaces because we're not just here now in this physical form. We bring other things to this time, which goes amiss when we segregate each other or separate each other into
Yeah.
age or whatever culture or yeah, any form of segregation is creating a gap, a barrier almost.
And we are absolutely age phobic, age
Yeah.
phobic in this
Mhm.
culture, in our Western culture. In Eastern cultures, it's different. They're still, well, I mean, everything's becoming much more westernized these days, but there is this deep respect for the elders and for the children. And
Yeah, as is in the African culture, that's the beauty of it,
yeah,
Everybody is together in this. The mamas and the children, we learn from each other
mm,
instead of teach. There's this aspect of I know better than or you
yeah,
know less
yeah,
than.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's interesting because from this very pokey new moon, this T-square new moon, which is a fixed T-square, so
yeah,
there's no give and take here. This is very, I think that's why people have kind of feel like,
mm,
consciously or unconsciously, by the way,
yeah,
we move into the full moon in May, on May the 12th, and it's 5:56 UK time,
yeah,
and the moon is in Scorpio. So, which is interesting because it's still Mars is still in traveling through Leo, and
yeah,
it's not such a tight opposition now to Pluto. It's definitely moving off, which is going to I hopefully ease the tension a little
Mm.
bit more. But Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and Mars. So
Yeah.
there is going to be a hangover from this T-square still playing out, I would say, at the full moon, the Scorpio full moon. Uh,
Mm.
so, it's lessening the tension that we've been feeling over well, really, since the first opposition, the Mars opposition to Pluto, was in November. So we've had a long time of feeling this tension being very present in the psyche and in the
Mm.
zeitgeist. And boy, haven't we seen it playing out.
Yeah.
Ooh. So, and I was just saying before, actually, that I read in the news today that there's a possibility of Pakistan and India ramping up their age-old argument about Kashmir. So,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of stuff going on, obviously, in Ukraine and Russia and America. That's a trio that's playing out at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, Gaza is ongoing and
Yeah.
deeply distressing.
And all of this has an impact on the zeitgeist, you know,
Yes,
all
yes,
of this helplessness of this misinformation, almost, you know, who's right and who's wrong.
yes, yes,
Because, yeah, there are people caught up in the middle of it, real people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, and we all are,
Yeah.
because I killing people is against our natural law, our natural way of being. It is.
Mm.
I believe that we come from an essence of love, and I've
Mm.
been thinking about this so much recently, Michelle, about the madness of the world and this separation from what I call it the divine,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sort of this divine love, and we forget and we incarnate into these insular beings, which is
Mm.
physically separated out, and we're searching for love all our lives. All of us are. And
Yeah.
people who kill other people more than likely end up with raging post-traumatic stress disorder, because they know deep inside this is not what we're here to do, but yet we've been doing it
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. And
I
and the thing is, the people doing it aren't the ones that have there's there's such a manipulation, I feel, within that process of the people that are out there doing this unnatural thing aren't the ones that have the issue. You know, they've been manipulated into I am protecting or I am, you know, enforcing something that is good. But the act of it is completely against our nature. And it must be such an horrific thing to experience
yeah,
once that emotion and once that kind of driving force has
yeah.
come to a culmination of, oh, I've done this now, and
Yeah.
now it becomes a personal thing. Um,
Well, as a psychotherapist, I worked with people with po
yeah.
post-traumatic stress disorder, and I did work with a soldier, and
Mm.
who'd been in the Iraq War, and
Yeah.
his story was just horrendous, and he did something that he had initially no control over, but he'd been ordered to do it.
Yeah.
And he turned to the bottle to escape it. So, did a lot of work releasing and trying, and he finally understood that he'd been out of control, that he hadn't done it out of malice. He had been ordered to do it because he was a soldier. And that, when he got it into his being, it
Mm.
really helped. And he stayed off the bottle,
Yeah.
was deeply vulnerable and
Mm.
deeply traumatized by what happened. It
Yeah.
goes against the law of, I'm going to say something really weird, the law of God, or if you want to call it the divine or the light. And
Love.
the light,
It is so outside of that
yes,
concept of love.
yes, yes, it is. But it feels like we've come here to learn that,
Mm. Well,
because
we chose to come here to learn exactly that, isn't it? That's the
yeah,
whole point of this physical incarnation
Yes,
is for us to experience the separation, but it's pulling us back into that oneness because we realize that
yes,
that is our nature.
absolutely. So it's I, I think the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm engaging in it, the more I'm seeing it for what
Mm,
it really is. And I think this this full moon in May in Scorpio, Scorpio is very intense and it wants to go deep. It wants to know the truth. What is
mm,
the truth going on here? And because we've got the sun conjunct opposite conjunct and Uranus, there is this sense of, oh gosh, it's this sense of something happening or something coming to light, or maybe things will start to come to light. Scorpio brings up the depth, it
mm.
brings up what the unconscious, it's going, here it is, deal with it. And you're
Yeah.
opposite, the moon in Scorpio is going, okay, well, we'll do a bit of, we'll do a bit of dodging around here then.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be more revelations, shocking revelations, more volatility in the markets. Scorpio, Taurus axis is values, resources, money, but it's also to do with esteem, self-esteem. How do we feel about ourselves? And money is kind of, we've forgotten that, and we put all our self-esteem into what we possess and that what we own. And of course, it isn't about that.
No, no.
And I think that could be a recalibration, and a lot of people are going, I do not want to live like this anymore. So maybe this full moon, it's a completion, moons are always about completion, will be bringing all of that up in the zeitgeist. Something's got to blow.
Well, it does. And maybe this is the build up to that.
Yes.
Part of the build up to that, because there's a lot of movement happening over the next year, a year and a half, even now, as we're going with these big planets moving into different signs. Um, and and this shift, this consciousness shift that you were talking about earlier, this separation as to I don't choose this anymore, I choose this. And
Yeah.
Taurus is also a lot about self-care, about, I think the chakra that's connected to Taurus is the heart. Um, so, are we moving? It's interesting because in the Wisdom Seekers, I've been connecting these chakra points to our themes, which then also can connect to these signs. And the solar plexus was the one just before, well, the end of April, which is also connected to Aries, which the sun was in, and now we're moving into the heart. And I felt such activation within my solar plexus, that gut feeling that you're talking about, that there's something is not right, something isn't we're not being told some, like, I don't know, like we're being kept in the dark somewhere, and it's influencing us. This is our life, and we need to be in transparency with in this space.
Yeah. I think that things will really start motoring when Uranus moves into Gemini in June,
Yeah,
because that is a really volatile, explosive combination of,
yeah,
all sorts of truths coming out to the light. I think there's going to be a lot more coming out about UFOs as well
yeah,
after June. But what I do, I just want to come back to the full moon in May. What I do like is that Jupiter is sextile. Hang on a second. Yeah, this square is going on between Jupiter, ongoing square between Jupiter and Saturn. So it's coming up again. And this has been at the backdrop as well all the time. And I think that's going to be really interesting, because it's when they were conjunct. obviously it was 21st December 2020, and
Yeah.
that was when that new cycle began, and it's always called the Great Conjunction, when
Yeah.
Saturn and Jupiter come together, because we can see it happening in the sky.
Yeah.
The two outer planets before they just, before the we can still see in the
Yeah.
sky, and so they're now squaring each other, and they've been building up to this square for a long time, and they've been squaring and unsquaring and squaring. So I think there's something going on here as well, to do with the expansiveness of Jupiter wanting to say everything in Gemini, and then there's this very strong Saturnian tension going on in Pisces, which is, it can be a spiritual calling.
Yeah.
Saturn is saying, well, what's real? What is
Yeah.
real? Hang on a minute. Whoa, Neddy, let's just slow down here. So
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, I think when Saturn and Jupiter come together in the conjunction, it
Mm.
really indicates a new style of leadership. It can be new economic trends. It can be this sense of freedom versus constriction, all of that. So I think this is all going to be playing out a lot, all the time. So yes, it's sort of authority, sort of. Yeah, what I felt like when I was thinking about it is Saturn doesn't like lies.
Mm.
Jupiter in Gemini loves a good gossip, loves a good conspiracy. So I think there's that going on as well,
Yeah.
So there is this tension between what's real and what isn't real. And I think
Yeah.
Saturn finally moves into Aries, which will be very shortly.
Mm. I think it's just
It's
as we come into May.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not quite there yet, but
Yeah.
it's very shortly. I think that's when things will start to something will start firing off. I don't know what we'll have to watch what that is, but don't forget that Aries is very warlike.
But we'll then have Venus, Neptune, and Saturn in Aries.
Yes, we will, absolutely, but we'll just have to see how that manifests.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But
So
just very aware that I think that there will be a lot of false gurus coming up.
mm,
There's going to be even more people teaching, you know, spiritual teachers, I think, will manifest actually. I think
yeah.
there'll be a lot of information coming out about the vision, people's visions.
Mm,
Neptune is very visionary, so
mm,
and Saturn sitting on top of Neptune, which we'll be doing all this year, and then particularly the conjunction happens in Jan 26.
yeah.
That's going to be interesting for everyone, how that manifests in their life. But
Yeah.
if I would say to anyone, just be very, very cautious what you believe and what you're being told.
Mm.
Trust your instincts, because there's going to be a lot of false information out there and wonderful visions that don't mean anything.
And I almost want to touch here. Before we started recording, we started talking about this light darkness kind of, scenario. And I feel almost that a lot of this promise of the light is what keeps us away from the sacred, from the, keep us disconnected, because we've been told many lies in our existence. And I think for me, one of the biggest ones is that the darkness is bad. It's not necessarily bad, I don't think. A seed can only um, start doing its thing in the darkness. We need to connect ourselves with both sides. There has to be a place where we find ourselves in the middle of both the darkness and the light, because we can't just have one.
It's the yin yang symbol. We have to have both to understand who we are. And actually, I'm a real believer in Buddha is follow the middle path. And I
Yeah.
think teaching is so wise and sensible. I also wanted to say something. What did I wanted to say? Conditioning.
Yeah.
We have been megally conditioned in our life, all of us in our life cycle.
Mm.
The conditioning in where I was coming from when I was born was very much to do, well, you've got to follow, you've got to follow the rules. And then of
Yeah.
course, in my generation, well, we broke out of that. So, but
Yeah.
we were thoroughly conditioned because the Jesuits say, give me the child until it's seven, and
Yes,
I'll have
maybe.
the man or the
Yeah.
woman
Yeah. Yeah.
is with the man.
Yeah.
And I think that we're still carrying, a lot of us are still carrying that deep conditioning. And now the younger generations are being conditioned by celebrity. I have to be famous. That's toxic.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing though. I don't understand it. Like, yeah, because you lose so much in that, um
Yeah.
becoming that or whatever, you can look at most of celebrities. There's a turning point. They either turn away from it or they turn to
Yeah.
self-destruct. So yeah.
And don't forget that the moon in Scorpio is glamorous. There is a glamour
Mm,
about that. There is this intensity and this sort of dangerous glamour. So I would just say to everyone, be really visual about that, vigilant
yeah.
just about
Yeah.
that. And if you can bear it, stop following celebrities. Get
Or
off
the news for
TikTok,
that
get off, or
matter.
whatever it's called. Get off what else, whatever. I don't do
Yeah.
social media, but just get off it.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a very big draw to that. I feel in that split that you were talking about, as to we don't want to be there anymore. We don't want to live in or see that or be influenced by that anymore.
Yeah.
I do, well, before we wrap up, I'd love for us to have a look at Mars in Leo.
We
What
need to
is
just very quickly talk about the new moon at the end of the month.
yes,
Just very quickly,
yeah,
it's actually in Gemini, which is lovely. So I think that's going to lighten things up. Uranus is still in the mix, but
yeah,
it's not making it's not that very strong conjunction with the. It's not making a strong conjunction. It's almost just out of conjunction. So I
mm,
think by the end of this new moon, it's very chatty. I think there's going to be a lot more scandals coming out, actually. It wouldn't surprise me because it's actually making a trine to Jupiter digging things up. It
yeah,
could be a lot, we could have a lot of new explosive ideas. It's
yeah,
trine, it's not difficult, there's not a square.
mm,
Um, and the Mars has moved away from this
Neptune,
opposition. It's still in Leo, but it's
yeah,
moved away from the opposition. So I think this tension, whatever this is, will have eased by the new moon in Gemini, and that's on the 27th of May, and it's at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's obviously London time.
yeah,
And then we have got Saturn by that time has it's at 0 degrees Aries. So it's making a conjunction with Neptune, obviously, but
yeah,
they've been talking to each other all along the line. But then it is going to be in Aries. So we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. And we've also got a Venus conjunct a Chiron. So there could be real heart openings or heart. Yeah, who am I? Who
mm,
am I really? What does my heart really sing for? Um, a Chiron in Aries is, who am I? And with Venus there, I think that there could be a lot of heart openings going on around that. We'll just
mm,
have to wait and see how it pans out. But we can talk about that more when we next meet. But I
yeah,
think that after this full moon, I
mm,
think there is going to be an easing off of this tension, but I do think there's going to be more stuff out in the zeitgeist, which is I very ideas, probably more conspiracy theories. It's going to be very Nazi, lots of
Mm.
Nazi stuff going on. So again, be careful of what's true and what isn't.
Yeah, connect to your own truth, and that's where the tribe or the community comes in
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So you just wanted to say to finish off about Leo, Mars in Leo. Yes, that's an interesting one.
so I've been blaming that this week as well, and I'm not sure if it was, you know,
Mars in Leo wants to be seen. It wants to
yeah,
be on stage. It wants to be out there. It's full of pride. It's full of look at me.
yeah,
It wants so, and it's really interesting because Donald Trump's Mars is on his ascendant. So
ah,
here's the big
yeah,
guy and very aggressive. So I often think of Mars in Leo as the kind of crusader knight that's
yeah,
going off on his, all dressed up in his gorgeous, things, and he's got his
yeah,
banner, and he's, look at me, I'm going off to do these wonderful things, but I want you all to worship me and think I'm absolutely wonderful. So it has got that vibe. Mars in Leo can also be great sports people.
yeah,
They want whatever they do, they want to do it big.
yeah,
Here I am, anti-fantastic. And Leo is about the heart, but it's also about it's this fire energy, and it's
yeah,
very creative. It's a very
yeah,
creative Mars, that is. But there is this sense I have to dress up and be seen. So
mm.
um do you know what's come to mind? And I don't know if this is true, but I've got come to mind the pantomime dame, because it's that. Do you know what I mean? We can't do without our pantomime dames. And that's the image that's come to me. I said, I've never done a pantomime dames chart, but it would be really interesting to see if they had Mars in Leo.
That would be good. Yeah,
Yes. Does that answer your question about that?
yes, yes,
It, it's aggressive, but
yeah,
it's in a kind of very protective way.
yeah,
Leo wants to protect its own. It's the
yeah,
lion. It's the that lion's pride. So
mm.
it's very magnificent as well. So
Yeah,
handsome people,
yeah,
people with Mars and Leo, they're handsome. They've probably got a lot of, really lion look about them,
yeah,
or
yeah.
lioness look
Which
about
is
them.
which is out there, isn't it? It's
They
not
go
hidden.
to get
It's
what they
not,
want.
yeah, it's to show.
Yes, yes. And Mars goes out and gets what it wants
Mm,
through this expression of Leo wanting to be seen and performing.
mm.
Yes, but very loyal. So
Yeah,
I'm happy to go back to the Crusader bit.
yeah.
I mean, it does
Don't
depend on, what aspects are being made to in people's charts to Leo, who've got
Yeah,
Mars and Leo. But again, if you've got Mars and Leo, which I don't,
yeah.
please put your comments below. We'd love to hear how it
Ooh,
plays out in your chart. And I'm sorry
yeah.
if I've insulted anyone.
Well, it'll be interesting to know.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, Sue, thank you so much. I'm going to end with I don't know if you heard about the smiley face in the sky this morning with Venus. Was it Venus, Saturn, and the moon? So the moon is,
Oh, yes.
yes. So there
Yeah.
was a smiley face from the universe to us this
Oh,
morning, which I couldn't see. Um,
no. Isn't that lovely? You see,
yeah.
the universe has got our best interests. We're just not doing very well at the moment as a humanity.
No, and I
The
think
light, keep
yeah,
keep keep the light alive. That's really important. Not
yeah.
go down
And
that
connect to the darkness. Know that there's no shame in darkness. There's only connection. I think that is our main message for today is that,
definitely.
we are yearning for connection because this is who we really are. We are not separate from each other. We are part of each other. Yeah,
And we're all in this together.
exactly.
We forget that.
Yeah,
All of us,
yeah,
7 billion of us, are in this together, trying to work out what the hell life is about.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It was wonderful as always.